I wanted to create a place where the trials and tribulations of life become transformative testimonies. A place where everyday individuals from all walks of life courageously open up about the challenges that have passed and the challenges that will last. A place to celebrate the beauty of faith, the resilience of the human spirit, and the profound impact of sharing our journeys with one another. I'm Heather Patterson. Welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Okay, welcome back to the Blood, Sweat, and Tears podcast. I'm so grateful to have you with us today, and I am so grateful to have my sweet, precious, adorable, beautiful friend, Kristin Wyatt. A lot of you actually may know her as Kristin Wyatt and Kristin Art. She's such a talented little gem you are, and I have a couple of pieces of Kristin's art in my home. So thank you, sweet friend, for being with us here today.
Yes, I'm honored to be here.
Willing to come forth and just share your testimony and your walk with the Lord and glorify his name. And I just can't wait to hear what's going to come out of your precious mouth.
Well, I'm excited to hear what's going to come out of my mouth too. So we'll see. I've got some notes, but I'll have to stay in my pants as usual.
Oh, no.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So just to get started, let's just kick off that. Kind of tell me, what was, when did you come to meet Jesus, or when did you come to meet the Lord in your life?
Oh, I was a baby. I was a baby Christian. So, I grew up Baptist. So I was
down in the South.
Out in the South, Mississippi. I was probably at a revival, but I vividly remember the feeling of just the supernatural, just cleansing.
Uh-huh.
And I was probably at, we had all those revivals all the time, and we had all the I remember for years, I'm like, am I sure that I'm saved? Like, let me just do it one more time. And I remember my youth pastor looked at me and said, you don't have to do this again. And I was like, okay. So I've been a Christian the majority. I've followed Jesus and have loved Jesus the majority of my life.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So. Okay. Well, I love that. So then let's kind of just go on with your life as you were walking. Was there ever a time, what was the first time in your life, or no, let me go back. Yeah. Was there ever a time that you questioned his presence, or what was going on in life, or was there any time that, that you kind of strayed from him just because of life circumstances
Yeah, I think my friends that know me, I call it my dark period. I had one of those.
I had one.
Yes, I think it was just that, it was after my parents got divorced, and there was probably about a 3 to 4 year period where it was just like, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to go and live on this island. And then, it was kind of a period of rebellion, but the word that just kept coming back to me was just steadfast and faithfulness. So.
Wow. So just during that time, you would have just the hints of just steadfast.
Those little whispers where I'm like, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to do all these things and I'm good. Outwardly, it was just like I was having the time of my life, but just inside, it was just like, well,
Yeah. Because God, that spirit was not letting you go.
No.
Yeah. He was like, girl, you done been to those revivals, 72 of them. You've been saved 96 times.
Saved 100 times. I was like, okay, I'm in. I get it.
So it may have paid off.
I'd moved off. I had met, somebody out there. I was like, I'm going to live on this island. And I just heard that whisper of no, I have better plans for you. Just come home. And I think that's kind of where
that's yeah. And so you came home, and then you were like, this is me and you, God, we're going to do this.
Hey, we got this.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, what about, tell me something, because, my story too, just that, faced some difficult trials in life that were faith shaking,
Yes.
And so share with me and just something, substantially that has impacted not only your life, but also your walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think when I was thinking about what I was going to say and praying over it, the two words that kept coming out were obedience and art. And so I was like, okay, so how can I honor God in all this and my people? And like, I'll probably cry. So,
No, do it. Tears are good. Tears are good. I will cry with you.
I remember very vividly, like I was married. This was probably 12, 13 years ago. And I was married to my first husband. And I heard the most audible voice. I was standing in that kitchen and it just said, go paint. And I literally had those like Willis moment, like different strokes, like what you talking about, Willis. Literally was having a conversation, like, what are you talking about? What? And
You're like, who dat? Who dat?
What is happening? And I remember driving to Michael's and getting like this starter pack of paint. And then I painted two birds. And I thought, okay, well, this is kind of like cool,
Why
like,
birds? Why birds? What was it?
I don't even know. I probably saw them somewhere. Like, I don't even know why. I thought
Okay.
it was probably the easiest thing to paint at the time because I was like, oh, I can do like a little circle and like a little rectangle for a tail or something. I don't know. But I remember thinking, okay, this is cute. And it was kind of right when social media was, Instagram was just coming out, like Facebook, people were doing a lot of promotions on things like on social media. And I put both of those birds on social media. And my sweet friend from Alabama, we had just moved from Alabama, bought them. And I remember mailing them to her. And she called me and she said, I love them. But, the tissue paper that you wrap them in, it's stuck in the paint. And I'm having to pick some of the tissue. I had no idea what I was doing.
What you were doing.
No idea. I was like, I wrap those things in tissue paper. But I just kept thinking, okay, God, this is not my lane. But I'm going to be obedient and try to stay in this lane to see this through, because obviously it was something that I could not do.
Like it was that heavy on your heart,
Yes.
like this art thing.
Like what is happening? So, and I just kept painting. Like I was like, I'll do you some more birds, and she was like, no, I love the birds. I just picked the tissue paper out. It's great. And I was like, okay. And
she's like, they're still drying. It's fine, but Kristin mailed them wet.
I probably did. No, oh, that's great. So then, let's see. So then, fast forward about 2 years later, I had been painting. I was doing like smaller things, ballerinas, cheerleaders. People were like, "Oh, can you paint this?" And I always have the mentality of like, "Yeah, I'll figure it out later." So much to the demise.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, we'll fake it till I make it. And then my stepbrother asked me to do the art for their dental clinic that they opened in El Paso. It was 15 huge canvases, and again, it was like
15
yes.
huge canvases.
They were 36 by 36, 48 by 40. Massive. The UPS guy, I still have pictures. He still remembers me. It was just this massive, just undertaking. But I was like, God's going to see this through. I will somehow get this done. And then after that, with the social media, I think what do they say? Like the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah.
But so that was kind of my biggest job at that time. And then fast forward to about, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Oh
no. About 9 months later, I find myself in the middle of like a very painful divorce. It was, my kids were small, they were little, but God knew. He knew that what was on the horizon. And so the obedience part was like, I paved this way for you. Through this art, you're going to be okay. It became a cathartic piece for me, but it also became a provision for my kids and I.
Yeah, just going back to that moment of you standing in that kitchen, having no idea what was going to happen.
No.
Within the near future.
I was like, I am like super happy just, being with my kids and just being a stay-at-home mom. I was like, I wasn't trying to find a side hustle. I wasn't trying to like do anything else. But but God, like that's my
Mm-hmm.
favorite two words in the Bible. Um, he knew, and he knew what was ahead and what had to happen for me to be here today. And so
Uh-huh.
I remember, let's see, I think my notes after that, I needed a job. I didn't have a job. And so it was just all of these unknowns. But through all of that, the threads that were weaved through the probably year and a half of this little art gig that I'd started, he had begun to lay out the path of my next steps.
Mm-hmm.
My art, I had donated a piece of art to a fundraiser. One of the employees at first, no, second press, bought my art. She recommended me for a job. I get the job. From there, I met another person, Abby Harden, which led me to my job at Roberts. I was there for, 5 or 6 years, which led me to my friend Nan, which exposed me to Africa. So, like, this little art deal has
Mm-hmm.
now gone all across the world in some way.
Never, ever would you have ever in your
No,
wildest
I
dreams
mean, like, it's been
ever.
crazy. And so I was able to continue painting and then just,
Well, I want you to tell the story of it's one of my most favorite stories
oh,
of when you and your husband, after the divorce,
mm-hmm,
or when y'all were going through the divorce, and you moved out and you had to find a home for you and the
mm-hmm,
kids.
mm-hmm.
Tell us about what you found in the
Mm.
cabinets of that home.
I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, I need to somehow kind of fit that in some way. I had no idea about anything. I remember walking to this house and through my job, through the art connection, through the job, Molly's teacher at the time, my daughter, her teacher was like, "Oh, my daughter's about to sell her house. You should walk in there and just tell her that you." And so I did. I walked in there. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Same with the art. Like, it's just kind of like, I don't even know how to buy a house. But um, we looked and she goes, there's an art studio underneath the house. This would be perfect for you and the kids. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure financially, what that's going to look like, but just keep me posted. Well, that night I got home and she called me and she was like, this is your house. Like, I truly believe this is your house. And she goes, I'm gonna move out and I'm gonna live with my brother until your money gets situated, until you're able to figure out what you're doing. And I'll just move in with my brother. And, you can start moving in here tomorrow. I mean, it was like the next day.
I
And
have
so it was
there goes
crazy.
my chill bumps again. Yeah, like gonna have to shave again today because I
I
like
know, like me too. And I really tried to put makeup on and I was like, I'm probably going to cry it all up. But anyway, I was in the home and it was just kind of one of those things. You're just kind of propelled at that time by stress and adrenaline. It's just kind of all
uh-huh.
mixed together. And I just remember kind of when you kind of get settled and all that kind of goes away, there's a darkness. There's like a dark period there where I was just kind of like, what is this? Like, just questioning God, questioning like decisions. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's so much that goes along with that. And
Like
I remember,
attack, like enemy
yes,
attack.
enemy
Uh-huh.
attacks of just like, and I remember thinking, okay, like, this is the house that put us back together. And so we named it the healing house. But I was in one of those dark moments and I was going through my cabinets and I opened up my cabinet and there was a Bible verse that was printed in like on the cabinet door. I had been in the house 6 months. It was my spice drawer. I had opened that cabinet door a million times
And never noticed it.
and I'd never noticed it. And I remember calling Eden, who I'd bought the house from. I said, there's Bible verse, like what, here. And it was something I cannot remember. I have the actual piece of paper, but it's in my attic, I think. But it was about something about lands being barren or, whatever, that, it comes to like fruitfulness and things like
Uh-huh.
that. Just keep, persevering. And she said, they're all over the house. She goes, you're going to find those um, whenever you need, like whenever God reveals those to you. And I did.
Stop.
There was a couple of other times where there was a couple of more verses that I found, but that one was so like just okay, yes, it might feel dark, it might feel barren, it might feel uh lonely, but just if you can be that word steadfast and faithful and
Steadfast.
obedient, like continue teaching, continue doing this art. And so I did. And it's been a wild, crazy, fun journey.
And also too, like, did the painting, because I know one time you had we had like a painting party at that
Yes,
house. One of my favorite things was walking in and the canvases were on the table, and I think you had put a word,
yes,
maybe under each canvas, but you had also prayed over each canvas before we came in to paint, which was probably my most
yes,
favorite part. And then as we're painting, I kept thinking, this is so therapeutic, that it helped me relax. It helped me. Um,
yes.
so not only did that become like a source to provide for you and the kids, but
Mhm.
was that a way to find some peace and to find some, like, solace
Yeah.
during that? Is it as peaceful to you as it was for me, like painting, when you
It's
were
probably it is. It still is. It's probably not as peaceful to my husband because there's pain everywhere. I'm like, you know what you were signing up for when you married me. So, but yeah, and I think it was my desire, like, to connect with women. Because
Mhm.
I started having paint parties. I was like, hey, come over, let's get around this big table and let's paint, and then let's share stories. Let's talk about like. Hopes and dreams, or just if you're going through a hard time. And through the course of me living there, I mean, I think there were probably like 400 or 500 women that came through my house. I mean,
Through your
it's a
house,
crazy amount. Tiny little house. But
through the
one of the
healing
things,
home.
the healing home, but one
Mhm.
of the things that I loved about that were people just want to be heard. Like they just want to be heard. They want to say, whatever's on their heart. And I remember the words that would come to me before the paint parties were like beloved, cherished, redeemed, beautiful. Those were all those things that no matter what you had gone through or like where you were at that moment, like that's how God sees you. Like that's how he designed you. I mean, he's the most creative person of all. So of course, he's going to view us in that way. It's just I think as women, sometimes it's harder for us to receive it,
Yeah,
you know, as it is for us to say it to other people,
no doubt. No
so
doubt. Did the kids ever comment about just, like seeing you walking with the Lord and going through those things, or
I think they just thought it was what it was.
uh-huh.
I mean, they were just so little at the time. I mean, I think 4, 6, and 8. I mean, they were little. So I think it was just what mom did. And there would be a lot of people, and I kind of worked it around, child, scheduling with their dad
Mhm.
and everything, and tried to do a lot when they weren't around. But then they're like, oh, well, mom's got more people in the house. Mom's got a paint party, and then the new one of the ones we did, you were on the news with me. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh. Yeah. With
And
with
so it was like,
Finley. Yes.
yes, with her. And so, so it just kind of became just something they were used to, and um, they really are like, that's just mom. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, I mean, just like the aspect of you praying over those canvases and writing those words and praying for the people that were walking through your door, your children being so young is when they are so impressionable. And
Yes,
I mean, them knowing that about you, about their mother, is something they'll never forget,
yeah,
as they grow older in life, looking back.
yes.
Yeah,
I think
that's going to be
so.
such a beautiful memory for them.
Or one of they're like, oh, we're just glad she's not doing that anymore. Like, there's just so much pain or whatever. But then that the art journey, it ended up going into my job. I told you I met Nikki, the girl that originally bought the two birds. She was the one that prayed my best friend into my life, Amanda, who also we kind of started the art business at the same time. And then through the connections with the art in the school, I ended up meeting Nan, and her, with her story, which I hope you guys hear. Um, anyway, we ended up going to Africa there and did art therapy with kids that were rescued from human trafficking. We went last summer. There's murals everywhere now. There's just hope and joy and happiness, and it's like, if why would you not want to be a part of that,
Yeah.
and all of
Yeah.
it came from just that audible voice, 10 years ago, like pain. I'm like, what? I mean, I would you could not have paid me to believe that I would be in Africa, not once but twice, painting with children across the world. I mean, it
And
was just
and healing, and it being a
healing,
source of healing, because
for everybody.
Kristen, it was like your
Hmm.
source of healing. I mean, of
Yes.
course, the Lord and Jesus is our healing, but
Mhm.
like that
Yes.
art became your source of like worldly healing, right? And
Yes.
then you're taking it across the world to
Yes.
people who have like underwent unthinkable
Yes.
circumstances.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you are sharing that healing with them, teaching. I can't even
Yeah.
wrap my head around that.
No, it's crazy. We were sitting, one of the murals we did it was in the girls' dorm room this past summer. And we did the verse, she is clothed with strength and dignity. And I worked with a couple of the kids there, some of the boys. And we just did this beautiful African woman. And I was like, what a way to affirm these girls of how they are in Christ, how they're
Mhm.
designed, how God sees them, not only through that verse, but just from their brothers,
Yeah.
from their brothers that they're living with in the care center. Like this, what a great affirmation for that, and something that they see. Um, I try to put pieces of that in all the murals. I've done several elementary schools, and um, just I don't. It's hard to wrap my brain around it is sometimes, because I'm like,
Mhm.
I will look at something and I'm like, I really can't believe that I painted that. But it's not really me. I feel like it is the Holy Spirit. I really believe it's the Holy Spirit working through these waves of creativity, and
Yeah.
it's just that
Well,
word of,
speaking of, just yesterday, I passed the building that you did the four ladies across. Like,
yeah.
it's one of my most favorite things in town. I'm not saying that because you're my friend, but like, it is one of my most favorite.
Thank
Who would
you.
have thought, from the tissue
No.
covered
Little bird.
bird
I know.
to the whole side of a building, you know?
My friend did ask me to do the one that got the tissue paper birds. She was like, "Can you do a painting for my daughter?" Her daughter now is going to college. I'm like, "Oh, there's redemption in that." Yes, of course,
Yes,
I'll do a
yes.
painting for you, and it will not be melted with tissue paper. So
And I know how to ship it.
I know how to ship it now, but it's just
Yeah.
crazy. And I think that God. I think if we're willing to sit in that and just listen, even in the quiet moments, like He's still trying to speak to us,
Mhm.
like, and there were many times in the healing house where I was just like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, but I'll paint. I can figure
Mhm.
something out, and I'll paint here, and I'll paint this, and I'll say yes to this, and I'll try to invite this group here to hear what they have to say, and that I feel like that kept my heart awake to His supernatural gifts of His presence.
Mhm.
Of all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, okay, this is personal, and
Yeah.
I will say I'm asking just because this is something that I did go through,
Mhm.
but and still do sometimes. But was there ever a time where you were just like begging for, Lord, I can't hear you. I need to hear you. I still don't hear you. And there were like days, right? I mean,
Yeah.
where we know that he is always with us. It
Yeah.
just the flesh says,
Right.
where are you? Yeah. What
I
was that like? What's that waiting?
The waiting part. Let me see. I wrote about that somewhere. Let me see where I wrote about that. I think I've always had a weird, um, almost like a childlike faith. It's almost like
Mhm.
seeing the world like through rose-colored glasses. I've been told several times,
Yes.
but
Which
um,
can be a good thing.
which can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on where you look at it. But I think even in those moments of quietness is when I think I learned the most, because I had to allow the space for the quietness. Like, and it was maybe he needed me to slow down, or maybe he needed me to just be present with my kids at the time, or maybe a friend, was hurting. I found it taught me a lot of patience in the
Mhm.
waiting, I think, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No,
So,
100%.
lot of
Yeah.
patience in
What's
that.
your view? I like that word. So, does patience have a new definition to you now after
Oh yeah, for
going
sure.
through that? Yeah.
For sure.
Like, what would you say your idea, or what would be your first response, 20 years ago, if I would have said, Kristen, be patient, versus today, where I would say, Kristen, be patient in these hard times?
Oh, I would have tried to fix it.
Yeah.
I would have tried to take matters into my own hands. I would have tried to do, I would have tried to do something worldly, like, me. I would have tried
Hmm.
to do it. And I don't think I would not have been comfortable in the silence or the dark, if that
Yeah.
I would have filled it with something, or numbed with something. And now it's more like, especially during my dark period, I was like, I think about what I was doing during my dark period. And now it's more of like, okay, I know you're quiet, God. I know you're there. Like, your presence is there.
Hmm.
And when I feel like I'm in those moments, I visualize where he is in my life, where he is in the room, where he is he sitting next to me? Is he far away? And
Oh gosh, I
and
love
having
that.
having those, or something hard, like if I'm going through something hard, I'm like, okay, I've got to visualize what that looks like. And then I visualize where he is, and then I visualize handing him that peace.
Mm.
And that helps
Oh wow, I
keep
love that.
him near to me. And so I can say that there hasn't been as much quiet as there used to be, but I think it's just a discipline of learning how to listen and seeing what, you know. Just like yesterday,
Discerning the voice.
discerning the voice. Like yesterday, I was in Target and they were giving away free flowers, and I was having like a sad day, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, God! I feel like like, okay, you're crazy. I actually are giving these away because they're expired, and we need to get rid of them." But I'm like, no, Jesus gave me these flowers. I needed this
But
gift.
God.
Oh my God. He was in Target, gave me those flowers. He did. That's what I feel like.
He did.
He
To
did.
make up for all the extra stuff I bought that I didn't need it, but I really needed at the time. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes.
The flowers. I love you. I love you, my daughter. And I'm like, that man was probably.
No, I want to go back to what you said, where you envision him sitting there. I just
Yeah.
felt when you said that, and I just tried to do that myself, just for a split second, there was so much peace that just came
Oh,
over
so
me.
much peace.
Like sweetness too, so much sweetness.
Sweetness. And there's healing in that. I think when you're going through any type of trial, divorce, um, you know, kids, whatever. I mean, one thing that I've learned is the discipline of just sitting in that for a second. I did learn that, like, your feelings have a 15-second peak,
Okay,
and
this is
that's
new
it.
to me.
Yeah. So here's some little some little unsolicited advice,
No, share the deets.
but it's a 15-second peak. And so what I've learned is, if you sit in that and actually feel that, if it's uncomfortable, like, I mean, I used to kind of white knuckle my way through everything,
Mhm.
because I
I'm
was a
guilty.
single mom for so long, and I'm like, yeah, we just have to push through. Like, we're going to get through this. I've got to do this. Here's on to the next thing. I've got to do this. I've got to do that,
Like, instead of facing it.
instead of just facing it. And it comes out in other ways, whether it
Mhm.
be like you're short with your kids, or like my husband, another word that would describe him is also steadfast. When I have kind of like my little tornado moments, he's like, okay, this is not you, this is me.
Uh-huh.
So, but visualizing that and feeling that. And so I've kind of given myself permission to name that. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is just a black, just yuck. And so I'm going to sit in it for a second, God, and then I've got to visualize where you are. Are you beside me? Do I need to walk to you? Do you need to come to me? And then I just hand him that black, just gunk, and I imagine what his face looks like. And the other day I was like, what does his face look like? I was crying. Of course he
I'm
would,
tearing up right now, just
you
like
know?
thinking about that.
And
Yes.
he's tender and his arms around me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. And then after resting in that, and then, you've dealt with whatever, and then you can not move on, but you're able to kind of
Take another step.
take another step forward,
Yeah.
and not just push it down until you just, you know.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's just kind of visualizing what it is and then visualizing his face. And I think that's why I've never really felt that he's not been there,
Yeah.
because you can kind of just, yeah, of course he's there. And he might be quiet at that time, but his face is kind and it's compassionate and it's tender and it's showing me um, that he sees me.
Uh-huh.
He might not be telling me anything, but he sees me. He sees all those words that I used to pour out and all these women. I'm like, okay, you're beloved, but I don't feel so beloved, and you're blah blah blah. But he does, and he affirms that.
Wow. Wow. I didn't even think about that. You just said that. Like you're beloved. I don't feel beloved right now, but
Yeah,
I mean, that in itself was a process, I'm sure, of
yeah, for sure.
like still
Yeah.
writing those words, still giving those words and not feeling them.
Yes, and then there's the attack
But in the
too.
back of your head, knowing that it's true.
That is true.
Yeah.
But then you have your own stuff, and you're like, okay, this is a joke. Like, why am I doing? I'm not equipped to do. That it's all of that. It's all the stuff that the enemy plays,
Mm-hmm.
against us, and
Mm-hmm.
so
And once again, just having that discernment of thoughts,
yes,
like taking
yeah,
that thought
taking
captive
it
and
captive. Yes, taking
uh-huh.
it captive. So
Okay, well, real quick, too,
yeah.
another one of my favorite stories. So, did you ever think that you would get remarried or?
Oh, no, no, no. I mean, I love relationship. I mean, I'm a relational person. And so when my main relationship ended in divorce, I was just like, the shame and the guilt and all of that just combined. I was like, oh, failure, all of it. So I was like, maybe I'm just good, like being by myself. I don't know. God had other plans. But anyway, are you talking about the gas station?
Yes. It's one of my other favorite stories.
Girl, I was living in that little healing house. I was going to Bible study. I think you might have even been in the Bible study with me. And I was in a beat up old van. My mirror was duct taped to the side of the car. So I'm like, if there's anybody listening right now that can't afford to get your car repaired, it's okay, because God is going to use that broken down car. Because don't worry about that. It's okay. But I walked in behind my now husband, and I'd never seen him before. I'm not from here, so I didn't really know about, the schools or anything like that. And he's a coach here. And I went to Bible study, and I was like, yo, God has thrown me a bone. He has thrown me a bone. And I told him the story or whatever. But long story short, a friend in the Bible study messaged him and was like, my friend saw you and she thought you're really cute. Are you dating anybody? And do you remember her? And he was like, well, of course I remember her. She had her little girl. They were buying honey buns on the cheap aisle. Wasn't even the good honey buns. No money. She's buying the generic chocolate milk, and she's got her mirror duct taped to the side of her head. Of course I remember her. It wasn't anything like, yeah, she was kind of cute
No,
too.
she was hot.
No, it was just the whole disaster of the whole just scenario. And but anyway, he messaged me, and I'm telling you, his debit card, he always pays with a debit card, and that particular pump, the debit card machine was down. I paid with a debit card. I was going in and get the honey bun and the chocolate milk, and obviously we were out of breakfast. But his debit card didn't work, and it made him go inside. And
And
so
that's how.
And that's how, and I was like, the Holy Spirit broke that machine. You know that, right? He was like, I don't know about that, but okay. I was like, what's Jesus? But yeah, he said it didn't work that time, and he had to go into pay. Otherwise, he just would have gotten in his truck and driven off.
Wow. And driven
But we
off.
had like a little interaction, and I was like, "Did you see me looking at you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did."
Because I was
But
like, you cute, you
yeah,
cute.
he's cute. I thought he was cute.
You were like,
And
hey, honey bun.
yeah, our wedding, you had me at honey bun and chocolate milk. So it was
Oh my gosh. Yes, the
my friend.
best. Y'all need
Yeah,
t-shirts that say that.
we do, and we actually
Uh-huh.
had the good honey buns. We did not have the generic. He was like, "We
Do you
cannot have the ones you were buying." So
have you at least done a painting on it? You need to have a painting in your
I
house.
should do that. I should have
Yes.
a honey bun painting or something.
Uh-huh.
But that again, it was just God's provision, and we dated a long time. Single mom, kids. It's
Mhm.
complicated. It's hard. In new relationships, like that, it's born out of brokenness. So,
Yeah.
um, how can your kids still feel safe and seen and all of that? So, that's tricky too. That's probably a whole nother podcast.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm
but
sure.
but yeah, it's just, and we've been married 3 years, I think, and we dated for 5. So been together
Mhm.
a while. So all
Okay.
broken down gas
So
stations.
when you said brokenness and broken down gas station and broken side mirror,
A lot of broken.
um, tell me what you think your relationship with the Lord has gained or how that has changed within that brokenness. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I think, do you know what I'm trying to ask that
I
I
do.
can't put into words? Okay.
I think, one of the things that I loved that when you sent out the, like, okay, this is kind of how the format's going to go, was your verse. Like, what's a verse that's meaningful to you?
Mm-hmm.
And let me find where I put I had it over here. It's Romans 12:12, and I sign it on the back of all my paintings, and I have for years. Let's be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And I think what has changed the most is my prayers, because I think over the years you can say, God, I need you to fix this. God, I need you to handle this. God, this is not working. God, where are you, God? All these things. And you forget the thankful side of it. And so being intentional and saying, but gosh, I'm thankful for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for this man that you've brought into our life. I'm thankful for this group of women that you have surrounded me with. I am thankful for um, just little things, even this house or my dog, or whatever. It changes the language of your prayer. And I think that's where joy comes from, because then I
Wow.
see the
Yeah.
thankfulness that surrounds all that. Yes, you do
Uh-huh.
have stuff. It's hard, like this hard, but it takes kind of the focus off you
Mm-hmm.
and allows you to say,
To really put the focus back on God,
I'm God.
right?
Yeah, like, look, yes, this sucks and this is horrible, and like, but God, just thank you that Molly is, 13 and going to school today. Just,
Yeah.
but it was a habit that I think I had to try to get into. And, one of the things that I wrote about that verse is, no matter the hardship, um, he will help us through and bring us to his presence with great joy. And I think that's what I keep thinking of. Like, all of this, all of the hardships, all the trials, all of the trauma, all of the whatever, he is going to keep you close to him and bring you into his presence through the Holy Spirit. And the part of that is that he will keep us from discouragement through the power of the Holy Spirit. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's just remaining thankful. And I think that's where my joy comes from. So,
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, one of the paintings that you did for us for our home, I had taken it down. We were repainting the hallway, and I don't exactly remember what I was going through during that time, but
mhm.
I do remember I took it down and I was leaning it against the other side of the wall, and it said Romans 12:12,
Mhm.
and it was the exact verse that I needed in my life at that very time. And it
Yeah.
was like that was such a God moment,
Yeah.
speaking once again through you, through your art.
Mhm.
And I mean, you weren't even there,
Yeah.
you weren't, that was not, it was just exactly what I needed to hear from the Lord. And I
It's like the
just,
supernatural little ways, like he speaks through others. Like, how can you? I was always thinking, I was like, how can I honor you, God, in this? You've obviously given me this. Like, I was
mhm,
an elementary teacher for 20 some years. This was not even on my radar. Like, if you would have told me at 13, you're going to be traveling across the world to meet kids that have been human trafficked, who have been whatever, horrible situations, and sit and spend time with them and live amongst them and paint and put paint on their walls and create. I mean, I'd have looked at you like you're crazy.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but it's just the, it's just listening and sitting in it, no matter how yucky and uncomfortable and hard it feels,
Because that's where we are in the in
Yeah, here
between.
we are in
It
in
is,
between.
it's hard and it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot often yucky.
Often, yeah.
And like, the children in Africa, not only are they finding peace and
Mm-hmm.
through that art and the Lord, but they're seeing the Lord through you, right? And they would not be able to see the Lord through you. Well, I'm sure they would, but what you've gone through and the brokenness that you
Yeah.
have experienced has led you to a place where you never dreamed you would be.
Oh, it's crazy.
And it's so beautiful. Like, there is so much beauty in that brokenness of your story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Oh,
all
gosh.
good.
Oh, I love you, sweet friend. I'm
I
so
love
proud of you.
you. I'm
Oh, my
proud of you
gosh.
too. I'm proud of you too. That
Well,
was
thank
good.
you so much for sharing with us
Thanks
today.
for having me. I hope I made sense. When you start talking, it's like, I don't know, but I hopefully some of it will string together and make.
No, I think everything was great. I think I just, always pray that the Lord will just let the right words come out of our mouths. And, most of all,
Well,
that his name will be glorified and that somebody can find hope
yes.
and encouragement in it. And I, without a doubt, saw every bit of that in my conversation with you
Well,
today.
you're
So,
such a source of hope and encouragement. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you allowing this platform for women to hear their story. I mean, I think that's the main thing. You just want to be heard.
well,
And
it's the same thing. It's as your thing with the art. It's like 2 or 3 years ago, the Lord said, actually, what it was like, Heather, you like to talk so much. You just like, this is me by myself at the table and I'm talking to
yeah.
myself. I'm at the dining room table. I'm the only one in the house.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like, you like to talk all the time. You just can't keep your mouth shut. Just talk, talk, talk. And then I heard podcast. And
Yes.
I was like, that's ridiculous.
Wow, and you're so professional. And
And
you're like,
then I heard podcast again. So
yeah.
then I go, okay. So I ordered a mic and then the things, and then I put it, and I kept hearing the Lord just say, podcast, podcast.
Yes.
And so here I am 2 years later.
So
So
isn't
it's,
that
yeah,
crazy? Do
it's
you know, I was
crazy.
Googling, like, I've done art show. Like, I was Googling, like, how to do an art show, like, how to set up, what do you need? Like, it's just, it's funny that, and you ordered a little mic off Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. Just having, you finally go, okay, God, yes. And I give it to you, just like your art. I give it to you,
Yeah,
Lord.
give it to you. Take it where
Uh-huh.
you want it to go.
Let it glorify
And
your
can I
name.
just say you have a sense of humor in doing it, because it's funny how it all leaves
Oh
everybody.
my gosh. I mean, I always say the best stand-up comedian would be the Lord, because we'd all be like, yeah, right.
So
Yeah, right.
I
She's
just
going to be doing
really,
that. Yeah, right.
I mean, like, again, I'm just kind of like, I'd have been doing that. You girl, you couldn't have
Yeah.
put a gun to my head and told me it was going to happen, because it's crazy. So
Yeah, but it's beautiful and wonderful.
thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks again, girly.
Having me.
Okay. We'll
Okay.
see ya. Thanks so much for listening. I'd love for you to join me on Instagram and YouTube at BS&T Podcast. That's B as in blood, S as in sweat, AND, T as in tears podcast. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, reminding you that the battle has already been won.